The story started a couple of weeks ago with this idea that this Washington Post reporter is suddenly missing. Well, he's not a Washington Post reporter only. His name is Jamal Khashoggi, and he is a Saudi Arabian citizen. He is also a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. His beef with Saudi Arabia in his own what he called self-imposed exile is all about the Saudis not befriending and not excusing the behavior of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Saudis are very clear that the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization and not a friend to Saudi Arabia or really anyone in the world. So he went into self-imposed exile, and he came here to the United States. There are claims that he was still a Muslim Brotherhood operative. There are also claims that he was feeding us information against the Muslim Brotherhood. I'm not sure which to believe at this point. So he's overseas, he's in Turkey, and he's going to get married, but he's been divorced to his wife in Saudi Arabia. For him to be able to get remarried, he has to have a divorce certificate from Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Arabians say, well, you're going to have to come into the embassy to get it. Now, he is not a friend to the Saudi Arabian prince, the one who has been this big reformer, and he's going to, take Saudi Arabia into the future, and he's good for women, and he's good for human rights and everything else. Khashoggi is not popular with that prince, and that prince has not been popular with Khashoggi. He had been trying to get Khashoggi to come back to Saudi Arabia, but Khashoggi knew that would probably be a death sentence to me. He takes his fiancée, they get into a car, and they drive up to the embassy, the Saudi embassy in Istanbul. He says, I'm going to go in, I'm going to get the paperwork, they're expecting me, I'll be right back out, wait for me. So she did. Hours pass. She starts to call the embassy. She calls his phone. No answer. Nothing. As it turns out, Saudi Arabia first denied that any of this happened, but we now know that they are about to admit. We don't know to what extent, but it looks as though he was interrogated, tortured, and killed. He was then hacked into pieces and thrown onto a Saudi plane in suitcases, and what happened from there, we don't know. Now, there's an additional update today. We have our Secretary of State over in Saudi Arabia meeting with the king and the crown prince, who are now saying privately that, yes, this was just somebody who went rogue. But it's kind of hard to believe. The new information today, this is coming from Turkey, so we don't know if this is true or not. There were two stories. One, the United States came out pretty quickly last week when this story broke and said, we have evidence that this was ordered by Saudi Arabia and he is dead. But they never released where that came from. They just released that this was U.S. intelligence sources say. That was the first nick. Then the Turks came out and said that they had audio and videotape of this man's interrogation, torture, and killing. I don't know if they do. There is a possibility that they have microwave technology that could listen if the Saudi embassy was not prepared to deal with that kind of surveillance. You can get that kind of audio from inside of a building. But there's also another story that this actually audio arrived first with his fiancée because he had an Apple Watch. And when he went in, he turned it on and it recorded. And when it finished recording, it just uploaded to the cloud and downloaded to her phone. I hope to God that's not true for her sake. I can't imagine, especially since we now are getting the story that this audio that we don't know yet if it exists includes his interrogation, and then the executioners come in, and the head of the embassy said, "You can't kill him. You can't kill him in here, or I'm going to get into trouble." And what's described as the pathologist from Saudi Arabia, the guy who was in charge of killing and disposing of the body, apparently said to the head of the embassy, if you want to live, you need to get out of here right now. Otherwise, you're next. They knocked Khashoggi unconscious, and he was unconscious for a while. Then you hear them apparently starting to get all of the tools and everything ready and the room ready to start to chop him up. He is still alive when they are dismembering him. And apparently it is a gruesome, gruesome tape.